What's up there, YouTube? Good morning. So today let's talk about the Nikon Z6 and Z7. The internet has been a buzz with everyone and their mamas jumping on the bandwagon of bashing Nikon over these new mirrorless cameras. Now I gotta be honest with you. Is the bashing justified? Let's discuss it. The biggest complaint that everybody seems to have with the camera is the one card slot. You know, you got one card, professionals need two cards. So like on, for instance, my Nikon here, it's got two card slots, right? It's got two slots. So on the new Z6 and Z7, they have one card slot. The only problem I have with that is that you don't have redundancy. You can't back up. You know, what I normally shoot is raw and raw. So on this, I would normally shoot, you know, pop in two 64 gig cards or 228 gig cards. There's a 64 in there right now as a backup, and shoot, you know, raw and raw, raw. On one raw on the main card, raw on the other card. And sometimes when I'm shooting photo and video, I'll shoot photo on one, video on the other. See, that's not redundancy. It doesn't have redundancy if I shoot photo and video. And what I was practicing with when I had the D850 and the D500 was SnapBridge. On SnapBridge, in order to transfer the files on SnapBridge, which is their you know, app for on your phone for transferring files and controlling the camera and stuff like that. Almost all the camera manufacturers now have that. They have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth in the cameras for syncing the phone and the camera together so that you can use the phone to control the camera. The SnapBridge app, people bashed it pretty good. And when it first came out, I tried it. I forget which one it was. I tried it on. And it crashed. I couldn't get it to sync. It was a real pain in the neck. But if you watch some of my other videos, you'll see that the video where I review the D500, I said that the SnapBridge app worked pretty good. It transferred the images. I was able to sync it to the camera and transfer the images. And then I noticed on the D850, it worked even better. I could set it up to automatically download images as I took them onto the phone, and you can set what size you want to download. So I was shooting a wedding a few weeks ago, and I forgot the XQD card. I have two of them, and I forgot one. So I had one in one of the cameras, and I didn't have one for the D850 or D500, whatever it was. I didn't have one of the XQD cards. So the cameras have one SD card, which is slower than the XQD, and one XQD card when they had two slots. A lot of people complained, why didn't they have two XQDs or two SDs? And I get that, but XQD, if you don't know, if you want to do a little research on it online, you'll see that XQD is much faster, like 10 times faster than the fastest SD card. So I see why they went with XQD. And it's more robust. The card is thicker, it's built better, it's more like a CF card, like the old CF cards used to be. And that's, photographers really like that because it was a good sturdy card. It wasn't flimsy, and like the SD cards are kind of flimsy and weak. So this is a much more robust card, and it's a lot less likely to fail. So that's another positive, is it's a lot less likely to fail. So I was shooting, I forgot the XQD card, so all I had was SD cards. So I put one SD card in the D850 and I started shooting. And as I was shooting, I was thinking, hey, wait a second. What I can do is back these photos with SnapBridge up to my phone. So I connected my phone and I started copying the images, and I just started copying, just direct copy. And then I saw, oh, well, I can make it where I can just turn on SnapBridge on the phone, connect it to the camera, and then put my phone in my pocket and it will automatically transfer the images. Now, I wasn't too worried about getting, you know, full size, you know, really big backups. I was just capturing everything. But you can technically capture, you have to shoot in RAW and JPEG, and then it transfers the JPEGs. I think it might transfer the RAWs, but it can't see them. I'll have to check into that a little bit further. Sorry I didn't have that information when I started the video this morning, but I was thinking about it last night. I posted it several times and one person came back on one of the YouTube videos. I said, why not use SnapBridge? That way you can automatically transfer. You have a backup, there's your second card. It's your phone. And he said, well, I would never back up as JPEG, I do RAW and RAW. And I said, yeah, technically RAW and RAW would be better. But JPEG is a good alternative if you're worried that you're going to lose the image. This way you won't lose the images. So if you lose a card, you still have the images. Yeah, you only have JPEG, but technically almost every file recovery software I've ever seen only recovers JPEGs anyway. It won't recover the RAW files. It doesn't know what they are. So if you're shooting, you can shoot JPEG, and you can edit JPEGs to a degree anyway. You just can't edit them as much as RAW. So if you set this to high, if you can look on my phone, if you look here, you can see, let's get it to focus on that. Boy, it sure doesn't like focusing on this reflective screen. Anyway, you can see it captured every single picture as I took it. What I liked about this is my screen this is a big screen. It's a 6-inch. If you look at the text at the bottom, the text says 7/8/18, gives me the time, 5:10, Nikon D850, 85mm f3.5, 1/40th of a second. That's what that picture, it gives me all the metadata for the picture. Another benefit to using SnapBridge, and I realized that as soon as I was done, is if it's transferring the pictures instantly, you know how everybody tries to look at the back of your screen? They want to see, the guests want to see the pictures on the back of the screen. Well, this is a 6-inch screen, oh, well, almost 5.9 inches or 5.8 inches. It's a big, most people have a big screen. You could actually have a dedicated tablet that you keep, a phablet or whatever, in your bag or somewhere near you. You have a bag with lenses, you have equipment with you. Keep the tablet or whatever it is on you and have it automatically syncing. Have it fully charged. Don't use it as a phone. Don't use it as a thing. You've got a 7-inch screen, right? And then you pull it out, and when people want to see their pictures, just go to the tablet and go, oh, okay. Let's see, you want to see some pictures from the wedding? Okay, here's a shot. And when you do it like this, the picture's much bigger. This is much bigger than on the back of the 3.5-inch screen. So it's much bigger. So you can show them this. I ended up pulling my phone out and showing them the picture on the phone. Sorry, it keeps going off the thing. There. I kept pulling the camera out and showing them the picture on the phone because it was so much bigger. And they got to see it, and they could zoom it in and see what the picture looked like. And it was awesome. And that way, I'm taking the pictures with the camera, but I can show them on the phone what the camera took a picture of, and they can sit here and swipe and look at the other pictures. You can even hand them the tablet and let them hold the tablet. If you had somebody else that wanted to watch, they could sit there while you're taking the pictures and watch them as they download to the phone. It's one of the coolest features. This is 2018, almost 2019. Why we're not using the devices in our hands is beyond me. And the other cool part that I found is if I'm sitting here doing this, I can go ahead and click the little share button in the corner and upload it directly to social media. So not only are you're sitting there taking pictures, you can crop them for Instagram right here in the app and send them to Instagram. Hashtag them. It actually has a setting in here. If you go up to settings, cancel. Let me go up to settings. Settings, app options. It has under app options, it says add hashtag. Add hashtag. You can hashtag. You can set the hashtag. You can add a hashtag you can change the different things, show credits. You can do all kind of stuff right directly from the app. And then when you're sitting here with the guest, you can show them their pictures on the big screen. And it worked beautifully. I had absolutely zero problems with the thing. Once I got it set up, only took a couple minutes to get it set up. Boom, it was like the pictures transferred directly to the phone. And then what you do when you get back to the office, if your card fails, if you have a card failure, you take your cable, you plug in your phone, it pops up on the screen, you go to your camera, where your device is, and you copy those pictures over to your hard drive. I'm going to show you right now. On my computer under pictures, I threw the images from the D850. These were all captured through D8.5. These are all D850 through SnapBridge. As I took the pictures, it transferred these pictures to my phone. So if I double click it, let's make this fit the window so that you can see 1080p. So it made these images. These images were captured directly with my with the D850, and then transferred directly over. So I copied them to the computer, took 2 seconds, and if you go over here to File Info, you can see I captured them at a low one, 1620 by 1080. So I captured them low, but it kept the metadata. These were captured in St. Augustine, Florida. That's St. Augustine, Florida. It gives me the Nikon D850, ISO 320, 1/100 f7.1, because I would get everybody in focus. And you can sit here and swipe through the pictures and see that these pictures were all taken in St. Augustine. See, these were taken right there, St. Augustine. Excellent pictures. You can go ahead and edit these if you want to. So if I wanted to bring these into Lightroom, I could edit them and fix them up a little bit, or whatever. It's a backup of the images. So if the card failed, there's your images, and you get them all. Look, it just copied the images. I just copied some of them back to the hard drive because I kept some, but you got the pictures that you want directly from your camera right here. See? But anyway, that's what I wanted to share with you. But you can actually copy the big images, but it's something. See, everybody complained that it only had one slot, and that's a valid argument. It's a valid complaint. But you do have a way to back them up if you use the app. And not only that, but you can use the app to do other things like share it to social media while you're still there. That's incredible. So you're basically using a camera 10 times better than the one built into your phone, and you're able to transfer the images instantly. I just thought that was fantastic. I thought it was amazing, and it worked absolutely great. The eye autofocus. Now, lots of people have been bashing them, Nikon, for not having IAF. But the funny thing is if you watch these videos of people bashing them, a lot of them are Fuji or Panasonic users or Canon users. They don't have IAF either. None of those cameras have IAF. Only the Sony has IAF. And it's a great feature for Sony to have. So Sony has one-upped them with the IAF. It appears to be a software feature, because like I said in the other video, Panasonic has a thing that cross over the eye. They just don't call it IAF, and it doesn't automatically go to the eye for photos, and I don't like shooting photos on the Panasonic on the GH5 anyway. Technically, it's not as, the new Nikons, don't have a feature that the Sony has. Fair enough. They don't have the feature that the Sony has. But they do have better build quality. They have a better grip. It's got better weather sealing. The Nikons have better weather sealing. It does 422 10-bit over HDMI. There's no other full-frame mirrorless camera that does 422 10-bit over HDMI. So you can pop a little, one of those Ninja little recorders that go on the top of your camera. You can pop one of those screens and hit record, or even have it where it automatically hits when you hit the record button, it'll start recording, trigger it, and it'll start recording 422 10-bit in 4K right off of the Nikon. This is Nikon adding a video feature that people love and have been wanting. I mean, it's one of the, they've added something no other camera has. No other full frame camera has. Now Panasonic has 422 10-bit internally, but it's a micro four thirds camera. So, you know, and it's the Panasonic are doing a fantastic job with that. But this is the only ones that have, so far, that have 422 10-bit directly out of HDMI. That's a huge professional video feature. That's not an amateur, that's a professional video feature. It has a better EVF. The user interface, from what I've seen on the Nikon, the user interface is much better than the Sony. Look, I'm not saying the Sony's bad. I'm saying the Sony is made by engineers. It's an engineered camera. It's you can tell it comes from an electronics company, not a camera company. And the Sonys are fantastic. They're great cameras. But even when the A7 III Mark III came out, all the YouTubers went to the California, to the desert or whatever, and were shooting. Remember, they were shooting all the guys doing the jumps. I watched the video. It was fantastic. But Tony and Chelsea Northrup were having such a hard time finding settings in the menu that them and Jared and some other people were standing around trying to figure out where a simple setting was in the menu, because the menus were so convoluted that they couldn't find a simple setting. They couldn't find their settings in the camera. They were sitting there. It's on the video. There's a video on YouTube of them sitting there going, I can't find this. The menus are so, we get so lost in the menus that they put these settings, they hide them in different little spots, and it doesn't make logical sense for a photographer. The menu is just like this. It's just like the menu on the back of their DSLR, except for how it's better than the Sony. It's touchscreen. You can touch the menu to go through the items. You can touch each item and change it by touching it. That's way better than the Sony. Doesn't allow you to do that. It does like touch autofocus, but you can't touch anything in the menus. You know, it's got very limited touch screen on the back of the menu. The Nikon lets you just swipe through, touch the stuff on the menu. It also has, for image review, it has a bar at the bottom. You can slide back and forth left and right, and it'll quickly go through tons of images. It's just a much better touch screen. And that makes a world of difference. If you spend time in the menus, it makes a world of difference to have easier to navigate menus. I was hoping that they would come out with a user interface similar to a phone, right? Similar to an Android or iPhone, something that was a simple icons. You click on the icon, you can touch it like a phone. Make it more like a phone. But that's a lot of software engineering to basically rewrite your entire thing, and to make the camera come out. They probably would have had to release the camera a year or two from now if they had to have another, go through and completely rewrite the whole menu system. So I understand why they basically just took the one from the D850, put it on there, and made it a little bit more user friendly. But it's still way better than on the Sony. So there's another feature that's better on the Nikon than on the Sony. While it's missing a second slot and IAF, it outshines everything else from the competition in a few key areas. Weather sealing. The weather sealing is much better. Now, to me, when I grab a camera, I like the grip on a camera. I like to have a nice grip. And that's a big thing. I grabbed the Sony and my knuckles were hitting the lens right there. If you have a bigger lens, like a wider lens, like a 70-200 or a 24-70 rather, something a wider lens, your knuckles hit that lens all the time on the Sony. For things that I wish that the new Z7 and Z6 had, I wish it had backlit buttons, like the D850 500. They said it was a mirrorless version of the D850. It's not. It's missing all these buttons here, and it's missing the backlighting, where you flip the little switch and the light comes on, it lights up the buttons on the back. Why didn't they add the lit buttons on the back? I don't know. That would have made something else to stand it out from the competition. They already have the technology. They could have lit the buttons on the back, make the buttons backlit. Okay, the next one, flip out LCD. The LCD tilting up and down, That's nice. It's great for getting low shots, high shots. It doesn't flip all the way flat for way over your head, but it does flip out enough to where you can see it if you're holding it over your head. But it doesn't flip out to the side. You know, why didn't they, like I said in another video, they could have included these buttons on the right-hand side, on the left-hand side right here, and put the hinge past those buttons and had the whole thing flip out with the buttons on it. So they could have had the LCD flip all the way out to the left, to this side, with the buttons remaining on the beside the LCD, and just have the LCD fill the back, you know, make a nice big LCD, but make it flip out and flip around, you know, a regular fully articulating LCD. That's why they should have done it. I don't know why they didn't do it. Well, I have an idea. Engineering, it's a lot of R&D. They spent their R&D on the making a mirrorless camera, mirrorless like that, which they've never done. It's a big step. It's a lot to do. I imagine in 2 years they'll be announcing their S line or whatever the next one is, and it will have more features that we want, like IAF, hopefully lit back buttons, you know, whatever it is that people start using the cameras and telling them that these are the things that we really wish this camera had. I'd rather it had dual SD card slots so I don't have to connect to the smartphone just to get a backup. But there is an option of connecting to the smartphone as a backup. And I thought I'd let people know about that. You know, I think a lot of people have been missing this, a great opportunity to start using the apps and stuff that they have. And they also updated SnapBridge. They said they updated it with something else. There's a new version of SnapBridge that comes out with the camera. So they're counting on you using SnapBridge with the camera. Maybe that's why they only included one slot that's super fast, so that they can have the fastest buffer. And the other thing I wanted to talk about, this continuous shooting mode. There's a continuous high plus that locks exposure when you're shooting, and it shoots 9 frames per second or whatever it is. Now, the buffer fills up fairly quick, but from all accounts that I've seen online, all you have to do is release your finger from the shutter and start immediately again. And because it has XQD slot, it empties the buffer so fast into the slot, you can immediately do a bunch of shots again, the next 20 or 30 shots, whatever. So you're just click, 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 and it's filling the buffer and emptying it just as fast as it fills it in a click press. So that's really, really awesome. You want a camera, if you want a sports camera that's gonna shoot sports or wildlife and just hold the trigger down and shoot the whole time, D500 is the camera for you. That camera there, you can just hold down on the trigger and it will just shoot 200 shots without stopping, without filling the buffer. It's just ridiculous the amount of high speed, fast shooting you get with it. But for the mirrorless camera, it's actually pretty decent if you just let go and do the thing. The other thing I wanted to discuss was the wheel on the back. There's a big wheel on the back right here on the Nikon. Oh, also, the Nikon has a nice little top LCD. The Sony doesn't have a top LCD. It's nice to be able to glance down at the top and see what your settings are. That's handy. Just boom, okay. And it's a really cool one of those liquid. It's one of those cool LCDs. I don't know what it's called. Cool LCD. I don't know. So the dial on the back, if you're a Nikon shooter, you're used to this dial, right? You're used to this dial. A lot of people are like, well, what does the dial do? It's not marked. It doesn't have any markings on it. This dial doesn't have any markings, but you're used to it. You hold down exposure compensation, turn the dial. It does that. You hold down anything else, the dial has multiple uses depending on what you're pushing. You push ISO, you turn the dial. You push exposure compensation, you turn the dial. It makes the changes for you. It's a handy multi-purpose dial. I use this one all the time. I use the dial on the front, dial on the back constantly on the camera. You push down ISO, you push down a button, you turn the dial on the back. You do one in the front, you turn the dial on the back. It's just a handy multi-use dial. I don't know why people think it's, what's wrong with this dial? This dial doesn't have any markings on it. It's not a mode dial. It's not this dial. It's what every Nikon. This is what we use. We use this dial constantly for doing things. Also, when it locks exposure and shoots 9 frames per second, it doesn't change exposure. I shoot manual anyway. I don't have to change anything. See the M? It's on M. It's on manual. I shoot manual. I don't shoot automatic. So I don't need to have it automatically be changing exposure for me anyway. So my exposure is always locked. So I would always use high plus because I always have the exposure locked. I set my exposure to what I want it. I don't let the camera set exposure. Sometimes it's handy to use exposure compensation, use aperture priority, and let it do the thing. In that case, it would lock exposure to the first image that you shot if you're shooting continuous. So what? You're shooting continuous. It's probably not changing that much. If it changes and gets into a super bright spot and the image is overexposed, don't use that image. Use the ones that are in the other thing. I mean, it's not a huge deal. I didn't think it was a big deal. Anyway, I thought I would bring up some of these things that people have been talking about on YouTube and bashing the camera without having used it, without having done anything. I'm a fan of Nikon. I will be straight up honest with you. The reason why I'm a fan of Nikon is because I've used a bunch of other cameras and I like that one the best. You can call me what you want. Say, oh, well, you're just a fanboy or whatever. I'm just showing you an alternate idea, an alternate viewpoint on ways that you can actually still use the camera to do what you want. Back the images up the snap bridge. Back the images up there. Now you don't need a second. Maybe you didn't think of that. Maybe you were thinking, well, I can't get this camera because it only has one card slot. Use your smartphone. Everybody has them. The internal memory is gigantic. They got large internal memory. This one here, I can pop in an external memory card and pop it in there and just, put a 128 gig card in there and just fill it up. Or 256 gig card or whatever. They're coming out with 1 terabyte cards. Pop it in there. You can fill up the card and use it. Do your wedding and do your event and put the images on there. And as they get faster, they'll get better and better. And you'll be able to download the raw files to maybe it does. I didn't check, but maybe shooting 12-bit raw and transfer the files that way. Have it automatically keep the files that way. I like 14-bit raw because I like to be able to make adjustments to my images. So what do you guys think? Comment below. Let me know what you guys think about these ideas, these things that people have been talking about. It seems like a no-brainer. Just use this, just do that. Is it a workaround for not having a second card? Yeah, it's a workaround. But the card that it does have is the fastest card on the market right now for using the thing. So that's great. Well, I will more than likely buy one and have it as a second camera. A camera that shoots excellent video and photos. I'll have a DA50 for high megapixel, and then the Z6 with the 24 megapixel will replace my aging D600 and D610s and all my aging cameras. It'll replace those because it does better video, 4K video, and it does the same 24 megapixel as those cameras, and I think that's the market they're trying to go after, is the people that have had some of the entry-level full-frame D750s, D600, D610s, those people that were looking for a D760, which I was. Those people are their entry-level full-frame DSLRs, they're trying to get those people. And to me, with what it does, that's perfect. That does everything that I want it to do for a camera. We'll see how it does. I hope that when the finals get released, the firmware is updated and it has fixes a little bit of the focusing things. From what I saw in the video, the focusing was fantastic. But all right, tell me what you guys think. These seem like good options as a alternative to a second card slot? Quick update. Just posted, there's some reports coming out. This is from Richard Costin Facebook. Richard Costin, I'll leave a link in the description below. He said it didn't have the final firmware, but build quality, he gives his impressions. Build quality, top notch. Expect no less from Nikon, top notch build quality. Image quality, as reviewed on camera, fantastic, at least to the 850 standard, I estimate. Low light was punchy and noise free. That's fantastic too. Autofocus, quick and smooth, both with native Z lenses and using the F-mount adapter. Tracking seemed decent, although perhaps not quite up to the world-leading D5 500 and 850. Again, this is all based on use in a dark basement at Nikon's Oxford Circus headquarters. Battery, this is an important one, seemed to be much better than the reported 300 shots. The cameras had been used the previous day for the press and not recharged, and still had 60%. After my 30 minutes or so intensive playing and burst shooting, it only dropped 1% or 2. I highly suspect you will get 1,000 plus shots with it. Nikon were a bit confused why the third-party rating was so low. XQD card will be firmware updated to CF Express when the cards are released and improve buffer performance. So it'll get even better buffer performance when those cards are released. One card slot was for size reasons, as well as Nikon UK only having received one single report of an XQD card corrupting since they were introduced years ago in the D4. The XQD cards, quote, talk the same language, unquote, as the camera hardware and don't need interpreting to write to the flash memory, was cited as one of the reasons for this. So basically, it doesn't have to reinterpret that. They can just dump the file directly to the card faster than on an SD card because it doesn't have to interpret stuff. Lens and sensor combos very sharp right to the edges. Focus accuracy very good thanks to on sensor AF points, I guess. Worked well with the 180 to 400 plus adapter, plus hunted a fraction more than the D850 does, but this was all handheld in a dark presentation room. The F-mount sensor wasn't that heavy or clunky, worked well. Nikon still committed to F-mount DSLR range now and in the future. Cameras are aimed at high-end enthusiasts, which is what I said. It's a low-end entry full frame, like the D7 750s, which would be considered high-end enthusiasts. That's what I said minutes ago in this thing. EVF was very clear, smooth, and grain-free even in very dark areas. A pleasure to use and made dark areas easier to see than with the naked eye. Buffer seemed to be about 20 shots on the Z7 and then a consistent estimated 2 frames per second as the card cleared in real time with the shutter still held down. This is said to improve significantly once CF Express cards arrive. Buffer cleared quickly when the shutter was released. 400 megabytes a second XQD card. So you release the shutter, boom, it just dumps it and then just hit the shutter again, like I said. So far I was very impressed with these cameras. I'm not sure they would replace my DSLR gear for a wildlife trip, but I do think that if I was shooting any of the following genres regularly, I would dive right in, no question. Landscapes, travel, street, portraits with adapter for now until the lenses arrive. Journalism. I say this as the camera offers top of the range full frame image quality, a la the D850, super focusing and all the above in a much smaller, lighter, discreet package. The stutter when burst shooting gives me pause for thought for fast wildlife and sports, but it certainly was no worse really than the mirror flap we have had to deal with, perhaps. Focus tracking needs proper use to gauge versus the DSLRs. So there's a first-hand report. So I'm thinking, let's wait for these things to finally come out, and then we'll judge them. All right.